Hey, Darren. You're on. You hear me?
Okay, I can hear you just fine.
From the
Hi,
old
Darren.
days. Oh, I know. Look, I'm right here. I can see him across the hall.
Hello, Mayor. Good evening, everyone.
Nobody wants to know what goes on.
Hi, Darren.
Nope.
But one of the people that,
Good evening,
their
John.
son-in-law is just a
How's
lawyer.
the weather
Good.
down in Georgia?
Good voice recognition.
He kept the township.
It's beautiful. 70 and sunny.
But,
Well,
for
what
me,
about that here?
I just like to make sure that people do a subdivision, that they have rights for a water line. Unfortunately, the sewer line is back here, the water line, they have rights. That if you put a gap there, it makes the road difference unless you're not very smart. Cause you wouldn't pick that up. But they've demonstrated that they have access. And I think one of these little notes actually says.
My baby, the youngest.
Put a house down there? Is
I told my wife one
that why they want to get on the up and up?
I think they're gonna plant a house here, and they're like Amish tents. But yeah, it works.
There goes the beauty.
We're here, we can start.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there we go. Let's get started.
Came back, see them before we're here, there wasn't before that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna call the Indiana Township Board of Supervisors meeting of March 12th, 2025 to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from February 12th, 2025.
I will second that motion.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes of the February 12th, 2025 Board of Supervisors meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have citizens forum. Anybody want to speak to the board?
And these are items,
These are items, agenda items only.
so we would do after the meeting.
No, this should be any items.
Okay,
This
this
should be
any
any
item.
Okay.
We
Well,
need
it
to use
says-
that in the
Okay,
future.
we're just gonna wait.
Just to be clear, so it's any items, tonight, now.
Now, okay, we're off the agenda. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Merritt, live at 512 Sandra Lane. You need my phone number as well?
No.
Okay. I'm, just wanted to comment on new, under new business, item I, possible approval of resolution 2504, establishing guidelines for public comment at public meetings. I'm not entirely sure what is in the contents of the resolution. I'd ask that the board, before you vote, post it on the website for all to see. If you are going to make any move to approve this tonight, again, being unsure of the contents, I would just ask that you not limit the amount of time that the public are able to comment. I realize that sometimes we come before you, sometimes the topics we're more passionate about and people want to speak. So I would just encourage you to keep that in mind and allow people that when they take the time to come out to a meeting, get up here before you, and they want to say something, and we have limited opportunities to engage with you all in one body. So just allow them the time to speak their mind. I appreciate that you might need to cap the amount of time each person speaks so you can hear from everyone. But in addition to that, I'd ask you to post the meeting packets to the website prior to the meeting so that we can see the contents and the substance of the agenda items. I think that would help in managing the public comment period at times when maybe it gets unruly and maybe people are commenting on stuff that really isn't on the agenda this evening. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else have anything?
Hey everybody, I'm Matt Vibrett, I live at 102 Craigmore. I'm gonna start the way I normally do up here. I am not a lawyer, but my reading of the code is that the time limit for a resident wishing to address the board is 5 minutes. Seems to be established law, doesn't appear to be discretionary, and I don't think that just be arbitrarily changed. So, the draft resolution 2025-04 that I've seen floating around seems to be contrary to established law, and I defer to the solicitor, but I'm gonna put my foot out here, and I think you need an amendment, an ordinance that amends and restates chapter 210, section 10. Look, I'm here basically to express I feel strongly that 3 minutes is, a limit of 3 minutes is insufficient to address any matter that would warrant me coming down to the township building and delivering prepared remarks to the board. As far as I'm aware, this meeting is the only public forum that exists for residents and taxpayers to have dialogue with the legislators, if you can even call it that, because public comments are generally one-way communication. Is 5 minutes really that much to ask? 5 minutes for a taxpayer to make high-quality, reasoned, meaningful comments with context so that you and other members of the public can understand them? Public comment should be fair to all in attendance, but do we really need this much rigor? What's the problem with the way the meetings were conducted last year? Changing the way the township conducts public meetings seems dubious. Limiting all public comment on a particular topic to 30 minutes, it risks disenfranchising residents who want to address the board, depriving them of the right to be heard in a public forum when they're not recognized by the presiding officer before the time limit's reached. Look, we're not in Fox Chapel. If I had wanted to live in Fox Chapel, I would have bought a house there. This business of adding your name to a sign-in sheet or registering with the secretary in advance is anathema to the purpose of public comment. Your average resident shouldn't need to be an expert in local government procedure to exercise his or her right to make a public comment. What about the people who get stuck in traffic and arrive a few minutes late? Or what about the people who have young families that took the time out of their day to prepare remarks that won't have a chance to give, that they won't have a chance to give? Yes, there are matters that come up that result in lengthy meetings from time to time. That's the exception and not the norm. The length of the meeting is in fact a pretty good barometer of how strongly the public feels about a particular issue or an action that you're about to take. Why would you silence that signal? It might be inconvenient, it might at times be uncomfortable, it might even get a little bit heated, but your role as an elected representative is voluntary. I'm sorry, that's the job. Each one of you told your voters you wanted it. It's an enormously consequential job, so I sincerely hope that you take it just as seriously as the residents and taxpayers who elected you, especially the ones that take the time to come down here and share their thoughts and concerns. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Al, can I make a big picture comment, because Matt, right?
Yes.
Matt said that there was a draft floating around, but Dan did send edits yesterday to this. So there have been some issues that I think people are worried about have been addressed, and I found some of those edits encouraging. But from taking it back to the big picture of what has been said, I feel strongly that before we vote on it, people should be able to read the full text of the resolution. So
I think our comments should be when this comes up on the agenda.
that's fine.
And let the public use this time to state their opinions.
I'm just part of the public, taking my supervisor hat off, but that is a big picture issue, Al, that we really need to address, is that what they're seeing out there might not be reflective of what you would be voting on. So I stand by that clarification.
That's why I didn't give it out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't given out by me or this office.
Okay.
So,
Anybody else?
Nettie Owens, I'm a township citizen, and thank you for your time tonight. I took some time to review the prior resolution and the Fox Chapel guidelines, as well as the guidelines from the Sunshine Law. I sent each of you my thoughts in email, so hopefully you've had a chance to read that and take them into consideration. A couple things that I wanted to point out that I think are important here. this came up, I think, for two reasons that we're even thinking about changing the public comment guidelines. One was that Supervisor Crawley wanted it to be clear what the guidelines were. So the first request was simply that those be posted. And then once it became clear that those guidelines were written in 1984, or actually, I'm not even sure they were written in 1984. They could have been written prior to that, but they were in the 1984 code. And that was the last time anyone had touched them. There was an effort made to bring things up to today's standards. And so looking at the community around us was, not an unwise choice to kind of see what's normal. But the conversation that I had with Supervisor Khan and the remarks that were made by Supervisor Crawley, and also remarks that were made by Supervisor Newman when I spoke to him about this earlier this week, really reinforced that this change should not limit the amount of time or the ability for people to come and communicate during this public comment time. At the time that I spoke to Supervisor Khan and the comments from Supervisor Crawley both reiterated that there should be public comment that's related to agenda items as well as non-agenda items. And the changes that were discussed, Supervisor Khan called me back to say, no, it's only agenda items, and there is a time limit of 30 minutes that's being recommended. So I would encourage you to reconsider a time limit, or at least one that's 30 minutes. If it's a 3-minute time period, that's 10 people coming up and commenting, and clearly when we've had issues like oil and gas and changes to ordinance and development, the comment period has included way more than 10 people who have come up and wanted to express something, and there have been a lot of unique commentary, in those diverse voices. If it's increased to 5, that could be only 6 people having the opportunity. And as our township is growing, I think it's really important that we consider that these meetings might become more complex and that we might need to have times like working sessions that are outside of voting sessions so that people can see and understand what is coming up for a vote. And so I would consider that perhaps we're growing enough that, like other townships in the area, we need to consider adding a working meeting when there are complex issues coming up. The questions that I have, though, to leave you with are, why now? What problem is this trying to solve that we are addressing this now when it's been in place since 1984? There are other ordinances that you've had on the books that you've said were sufficient because they've been in place for so long. Why change them? So what really is triggering this particular change? Was there a request by the citizens to make the change, or is it simply a desire to have shorter meetings and restrict the commentary? I would really invite you to consider restrictions now, especially when we're having a lot going on in the larger community that's restricting people's voices, that this in Indiana Township not become a place where that's true here too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments?
Hi, Julie DeStefano, 227 Rock Creek Road in Hidden Falls. I just want to say thank you. We, came before you a couple months ago, had some concerns about how the paving project might go before streets were turned over to the township. Thanks to all of your involvement and support, everything went really, really well. Things are great. We've had exceptional service with getting the roads salted and cleared this winter. It's been like a really wonderful experience. There was the world's smallest pothole at the very front of the plan, and before we could blink, it was filled in. So it's been a really wonderful transition, and I just want to say thank you because it was truly a pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I just want to add, I think you're the first person I've heard who said this winter was a wonderful experience. I'm not sure we all agree with that, but I'm glad that the roads were taken care of.
Mayor, can I have a quick comment? To that effect, is that we still hold the maintenance bond on the developer for the roadway system itself, as well as all the infrastructure. But more importantly is that I had the developer hold back $19,000 of the paving company's money, because although you may have thought that the paving was wonderful, for our public works superintendent and myself, we weren't completely satisfied, hence the 19,000. So you will probably see a milling company go out there and probably mill the front of that off again and restore it properly. Secondly, you're gonna see all the roads properly sealed before the year is out. And just some of those little things that I'm sure you don't recognize, but Larry and I do.
I'm so grateful for that, because that's why we need experts on the job, because we don't know, but I thank you so much for just being on top of all of that.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Seeing nobody coming to the mic, let's move on to development proposals.
Thank you, Mayor. So the first one we have, well, I guess the first one has to do with the PRD section of the township. And I'm not sure, Dan, you wanna handle that?
Yeah, we have the red line copies that include the changes that were brought to us from the planning commission, as well as some additional input we received. Let me just give you- So you all have the red line copy now, and ask you to all review that, make sure you're comfortable with those changes being incorporated. If you are comfortable, we'll make those changes and put that new draft on the website and ask you next month in April to consider advertising for the public hearing. Okay?
Great.
Sounds great. Thank you.
So moving right along to the next item B, the Petropalo subdivision plan. Is anybody here representing the Pietropalos?
Yeah.
Sorry. How do you get all the syllables in there?
I'm Nick McFall Jr. 330 French End Hill Lane, and we're just asking your approval for the lot line revision that I guess you, Mr. Slade, already examined and I don't know, accepted.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Sarah has two interesting questions before I chip in here.
Sure.
So why don't you go ahead, Sarah?
Oh, well, I was just asking, I guess, basically what was kind of being moved and where, and it seemed like that, maybe this was being widened to kind of have access, so it wasn't like landlocked or.
Well, want me to take that one, or do you want it?
Go ahead.
Okay, so, with this particular, so a lot of this has to do a little bit of history, which is up my alley, but, there's the Francione Hill Lane that always went back there prior to the Park Place development moving in. And this particular private road served I'll just say a growing number of homes back there, is the easiest way that I could say it. A piece of property was originally sectioned off, which is the Pietropalos there. But in doing so, they did not have access to Francione Hill Lane. And also there was a little bit of a bridge between that plus the Park Place road system. So as a result of that, when the subdivision plan was, and this piece of property I think has been subdivided now like probably close to 5 times, but there was basically an access road off of Middle Road that was there. Now that the Park Place plan is in, now that they have now secured access to the Francione Hill Lane property as part of this document, they're coming before the board to ask to get rid of this 20-foot easement that went around the Middle Road in, if you know where that is. And based on all the ingredients now being in place, the recommendation of the Planning Commission was to approve this revision and redistribution of property. And I think, Sarah, you had a question as to whether you own both properties?
My mother was the one on Middle Road.
Okay.
Same name, different ownership,
Correct.
pretty much. And what is the fate of the property that's next to Middle Road? Is someone gonna build a house there?
I mean, it's just that adding that 20 feet would make that lot more feasible for
Yes.
somebody. And that's our, we had a plan, me and my brother, but unfortunately he's not with us right now anymore, so now we're just trying to,
So we'll square things up.
Yeah.
And basically, if we're going, our recommendation would be to approve the Pietropalos subdivision plan.
I'll make the motion to approve.
We'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Pietropalo, am I saying
That's
that
it,
correctly? Subdivision plan. comments from board members? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Make a motion to pay the bills? I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second to pay the bills. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Okay, so we're moving on to old business. There is no old business.
No, Mayor.
Reports, volunteer fire companies.
I have no report today.
Okay, thank you. Emergency medical services. Chief of police.
Nothing further to add to the reports given.
Thank you. Code enforcement officer.
Yeah, Mayor, the only thing that I want to add is I do have a zoning hearing board coming up for a variance hearing on March 27th over in the Hartwood Meadows plan. So, just let you know that. Pretty simple, straightforward.
Thank you. Public Works.
Nothing to add in my reports.
Engineer.
Just one comment, hey Larry, I see you guys have traded your plows in for scrapers, and the work that you guys are doing in the district on, Schaefer and Cedar are very, very well, thank you. Yeah, it's much needed back there, you guys have not been.
You can't do it when it's fresh.
Yeah.
We wanna plan on doing the, oil of it, well, not the oil, I'm sorry, our dust control.
That was my next one, cause what this did was.
As
it went out the
early
road.
this year as possible.
It's dried up already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right out the road, so you're gonna put some more stuff on top of it?
Yeah, we're gonna try that.
Stuff we did before, or?
I don't know.
Yeah, he's talking to the vendor about another
I'm
product.
talking to the guy come out to look at it, thanks for what he said.
Okay. Well, thank the guys for it, they've been all over it, so thank you.
Okay, engineer.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, happy St. Patrick's Day. Hence the green. So on the development proposals that are gonna be coming before the planning commission at the next meeting is, obviously, I think the board realizes that they gave tentative approval to the Frederick Farmers plan back on January 6th, I think it was this year. They've now completed their final plans and have submitted those to the code enforcement officer, and that final plan will now be on the agenda for consideration and discussion by the planning commission as well as the public. As also Hartwood.
Do they have all the permits and everything already?
They're getting their permits. So, in accordance with the Saldo and other things, you cannot deny a plan for not having third-party
No, I just
permits,
wanted-
but,
'cause it seemed to be
there is a
moving right
process.
back.
Yeah, I don't see anything that's gonna obstruct it, although the speed at which the government is currently looking at plans is rather slow. Is the only thing I'll say about that. On the Hartwood Meadows PRD Phase 5, the developer received tentative approval of 75 lots back in August of 2021. And I did do a little bit of researching because I didn't think it was that far long ago, but it is. So, if you've been out there, Hartwood Meadows Phase 4 is nearing completion. It's 83% build outs, or building permits have been issued. So the developer is now coming in for final approval of Hartwood Meadows PRD Phase 5 now. So we've now established all of the bonding requirements for that one. And again, that'll be on the docket for the planning commission at the next meeting. On the courtyard at Hidden Falls, again, I wanna thank you for your comments. We don't get those too often, but I think it's a wonderful plan that you're living in. I think that it's a wonderful asset to the township for what it's worth. And again, thank you for your comments. So on this particular plan, as I just previously mentioned, is that 100% build out and occupancy of that particular plan. The roadway system is the only thing that the township has taken over. You have not accepted the infrastructure for that particular plan. I do expect it to be coming here shortly. However, as I mentioned that on the roadway system, we are holding back a little bit of revenue there to make sure some of the things that Larry and I aren't happy with are taken care of. There are some miscellaneous items that are gonna be having to be resolved regarding the detention basin, as well as, I think, John, the walking trail possibly too? Over
Possibly,
there?
I'll get that in my
Okay.
District 5 update.
So, you know, a couple little things that are still hanging out there. But again, it's a wonderful asset to the township. On the Hartwood Meadows Phase 4, again, we're down to sidewalks on that particular plan. 83% building permits have been issued. Technically, that developer could ask for the plan to be accepted, although he has not gone to that point yet. Hawkswood Trails is still nothing moving on that. The Blue Run Road development, the solicitor and myself have been working on finalizing our comments on the developers agreement. All of the bonding requirements have been established in accordance with Exhibit C. I know that they want to move rather quickly on that plan, so I would imagine by the course of the next meeting, that developers agreement will be satisfied, and hopefully that project will be moving ahead.
Do you happen to remember who had purchased that,
So
development?
it was originally from somebody from Canada,
Yeah.
Jeff, help me out here, who's now traded it off to Andrew.
Andrew Hutchison is his name? Never heard of him.
It's a local developer.
Yeah,
So, and we're kind of excited about it. Jeff and I met with him. We had an opportunity to talk about what he expects out of the plan, what we did. And I think we're in agreement with where that plan is gonna go. And I'll get to this later on my report here, but of course that, for the audience, is that particular plan bridges Bruno Drive and Blue Run Road, so it's in between those two, and there will be a shortcut between those two now, so, and I don't want it to turn into like another Mallard Drive over at Hartwood Estates, but in essence, you will have that driveway there. Now, where that's good is because our fire departments will now have ready access both ways on that particular road too, so it does have advantages. So that's where that one is. Hidden Trails, PRD, all the permits are in place for that. The tree count has been solidified. We are anticipating a grading application for that particular plan. On Old Saxony School site plan, I think Jeff and I have come to a consensus with the developer and their engineer, making sure that the adjoining property owners aren't damaged as a result of the proposed subdivision that the supervisors approved. On the Hearts and Harmony Road, I know Jeff is working on an action plan with the solicitor for that project.
Is that to deal with the parking?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an NOV, and I misspoke last time, it wasn't directed at parking. It's an NOV, it's an enforcement action, Gavin doesn't really want me to say what it's directed at, but it wasn't parking specifically, I can explain it to you after.
Okay, any thoughts on when it's gonna be issued?
It's probably gonna be within 2 weeks.
Okay, excellent,
So
thank you.
then he'll have 30 days to respond after he gets certified.
Perfect.
So I still haven't gotten around with the Ottawa Hills Growing Greener thing, although there is a new round coming up for the Growing Greener grants, and the manager and myself will be looking at putting another application in there again for additional grant funds for the Middle Road sewer that's gonna be mandated to the
We
township.
wanna close out the Ottawa one first.
Yeah, well, yes. So on the MS4, again, September 2025, on the township zoning ordinance update, we've already talked about that. I did pass out this map here, and again, this is not the zoning map, this is what I would call the PRD map. So all of the historical PRDs that have been approved by the township since I've been your engineer, which is close to 40 years, are on that map, just to kind of give you a feel. What I want you to take away from that map is how it's dispersed almost completely throughout the township. There is no consolidated area or one area that has more development than another. It's kind of uniquely spread across the entire township. On the salt shed project, that's nearing completion. If you've driven by there, you'll see that aesthetically, it pretty much matches the Public Works facility. A lot of this thanks goes to Larry, who's been watching that and critiquing it as we go along. There's still obviously some items there that Larry and I aren't happy with that we need to fix, but we do have your consideration estimate number 4 in the amount of $48,887 that is later on in your agenda. The township building and the Broza Community Center roofs. So what do you call the building where the basketball court is? The basketball court? The basketball court. The basketball court building is starting to give us a lot of leaks. I knew there was a simple answer to that one. So we're currently putting together plans and specifications to
Dan,
replace.
I wanna stop you for a moment. I don't have on the agenda your salt shed estimates.
Well, because that was previously approved by the township, the entire amount,
Okay.
and all this is a periodic estimate, I would defer to her.
Yeah, you had mentioned it was on the agenda, so
Well, this is just, the next periodic estimate of something
Okay.
that was already previously approved.
if it was already previously approved, they're just updating them with the information.
That's all we're doing.
Okay, we're not asking for action.
Well, yeah, we're gonna be paying that bill, but again, it's part of the larger thing you've already approved.
We're not asking for action on it.
There's no action tonight, though, Mr. Smith.
Because it's already approved.
Okay. Works for me. That's why I love solicitors. So the township building, again, we're gonna be putting a single membrane roofing system up on those structures to make sure that our basketball court, remains, intact. The zoning map, we've done all the updates to that. Jeff is currently looking at to make sure I didn't make any spelling errors or anything like that. So at some point, as soon as Jeff's happy with it, we'll bring it before the board to get approved. On the Peoples Natural Gas projects, if you've been up Ridgeland Drive and Highview, they cut 9 times across that road. We are not happy with that. We already informed them that they have to come back and mill 20 feet wide on each one of those.
9 times.
Yes. Well, yeah, welcome to the world of utilities. And I'll talk about Chris here in a minute. But so anyways, they're gonna come back and they're going to mill 10 feet in each direction, 20-foot wide swath, and restore the roads that the townships paved like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I think it was. So the other one is they wanna come in and run a new line down Bruno Drive, which is also part of our paving program. I've already talked to them that I expect, so we're not gonna pave Bruno Drive yet, but I want them to participate and have the value of it, even though, because they would have done it anyways, the way I looked at it. So we're gonna squeeze people's natural gas a little bit. And yes, all of your gas bills will go up. Not really. And Timber Glen and Chapel Crest Terrace, they're also proposing one down there, which, again, they're gonna be repaving half of your road again. Emerling Park ADA access, the manager, of course, got you a $20,000 grant. We started the design on that. And what that, if you've been down Emerling Park where the bridge is down there, what we're gonna be doing there is you'll see where it looks like that there's the sidewalk to nowhere. So we're gonna be extending that all the way down to the proposed, fishing pier, but, ADA fishing pier, but, and also down to the pavilion in the back. And then finally, the 2025 paving project, those are the 12 roads that the Public Works Superintendent, myself, have isolated as far as paving this year. Keeping in mind is that it's a unit price contract so that I can add or delete anyone I wanted to. So working with the manager, depending on how much assets we have, will determine how far we go. That's it.
This may sound like a effort of utility, but every year we have a list of roads that we're going to do. Do we share those roads with utility companies, just in case they?
Yes, our road priority list.
Okay, yeah, just in case they wanna wait till right after we pave it to dig it up?
Well, actually, we go one step further and say, do you realize that we're giving you an opportunity right now to put your gas line or water line down here now and
Big
replace
savings.
it? And if you don't, you're gonna be milling, you're gonna be spending all kinds of money. We also go one step further, and if they're also paving another road, we will incorporate that paving portion into your paving to go for bulk. And by doing so, we're saving your utilities. Instead of $20 a square foot, we're putting it in for 13. So we're saving them money by working together.
Okay. Thank you. It does seem like every time we pave something, they're digging it up.
Depends on the water authority it's in too. They're not all the same.
Yeah, I know.
And I'd just like to take a moment to thank Chris for being out at Hartwood Meadows. Cause as you all know, is that once we put in the grading and the roadway and things like that, we pull off. We have, unless the developer calls us, we can't go out there because there's no budget for it. Or the developer bitches at me, one of the two. But fortunately, I had Chris out at Hartwood Meadows, and our friends at the Hampton Water Sewer Authority were out there, and they undermined a section of our roadway that Chris was kind enough to take pictures of and forward those to me, which prompted us to write a scathing letter back to the developer, because I'm not happy with him at all. But I just want to thank Chris for scoping it out and letting me know.
And Chief, can we get some, did you guys connect about getting some cars up there?
Yeah.
To take a look at some of the speeding going on? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to solicitor.
Thank you, Mayor, no report this evening.
Manager?
I have nothing to add this time, Mayor.
Thank you. Parks and Rec, anybody hear from him? Historical Commission? Okay, so we're on to supervisors, District 1,
Nothing to report?
District 2, nothing to report other than what's been said before, that the Indiana Township is head and shoulders above the surrounding townships as far as keeping the roads clear and having the roads available for our people to get to the schools and to work, at least as far as the borders of our township. And because it's been quite evident this year when you drive outside our township, the roads are not maintained as well. So Larry, you and your people are doing a heck of a job. Thank you. Supervisor Crowley.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Supervisor Hepburn.
I've heard from actually quite a few constituents. I think that everybody's kind of coming out of their winter slumber, and I'm hearing from people and seeing people, and everyone's out walking this past week. So I feel like I've connected with more residents this past week than I have for most of the winter, which has been great. Doesn't affect any township roads, but we do have a gas line replacement coming through a portion of District 4, which has caused a lot of chatter. But that should primarily just cut through Middle Road and private property. Yeah, more information requested and excitement about the possibility of the basketball and rec center. I've had a lot of questions come through about that, and I was able to see the master plan that Holly laid out for me in the parks, or the master plan for the parks here. So that's just been a big topic. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Supervisor Newman.
District 5, so like Dan hinted at in his engineering report, we have the ongoing saga of trying to get crosswalk for pedestrians across Dorseyville Road basically from Hidden Falls into Beechwood Farms. As I've discussed before, after talking to the community, most people want it located on the Fox Chapel side of the line, because you walk down a little bit further where that Eliza Fox Trail comes out, that's where people want it. So I've been coordinating with Fox Chapel people and with Beechwood Farms, and one thing that's interesting when I touch base with them this month is what we're waiting on is they're exploring possibility more parking on that other side of the road. So either for Beechwood or for people accessing the Fox Chapel trails, it doesn't really affect us too much. It's not in our municipality, but like a little monkey wrench in my pet project, but I'll keep you posted on it. But it is interesting. I don't know.
John, I should mention to you, in the past, I've had requests from residents in Hardwood Estates who wanted to see a crosswalk from there across Hartshorn Road, because there's trails for Beechwood Farms. They'd like to access them from there directly, as opposed to riding up to Beechwood and walking. But we haven't been able to get that one done as well. But there are a number of residents in that plan who would like to see that.
Send them my way.
So, yeah.
I already talked to the crosswalk guy at PennDOT, so.
Yeah.
Is that parking for Beechwood?
It was a little ambiguous, it was just an email call, so
Because that could really help your cause.
it could.
With more people parking on it.
More people parking and you have to do that,
Yeah,
It's just,
cross.
it's hard for me to visualize, because it's like, there's kind of like a
No,
grassy see their plans, but hopefully I'll meet with them this month and figure out what they're thinking about. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I get a motion to approve the foregoing reports?
I'll make the motion to accept the reports.
Second the motion.
Motion by Supervisor Hardwick, second by Supervisor Newman, to accept the foregoing reports. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to correspondence.
We have none, Mayor.
Thank you. And new business.
Okay, Mayor, the first item is the possible approval to advertise for the 2025 paving project.
I'll make a motion to approve the advertisement of the 2025 paving project.
I'll second that motion.
And before we go on, just, for those in the audience, just so that, and this is not a definitive list, correct? It's a suggested list.
12 streets, yes.
So what we're looking at is Republic Avenue, Puritan Avenue, Crest Drive, Victory Way, Peace Way, Duncan Way, Summit Drive, Park Drive, some public works area, Fox Hunt Road, Parkwood Trail, and Old Orchard Trail. That's the list as of today that may have some changes to it, but that's where we are today. That's all.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Newman, second by Supervisor Hardwick, to approve the 2025 paving project. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next item, Mayor, is the possible approval to advertise for bids for the Town Hall Community Center roof replacement.
I'll make the motion to advertise for those bids.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, Supervisor Hardwick made the motion, Supervisor Newman second, to advertise for bids for the Town Hall Community Center roof replacement.
Is that including Bozic?
No, this is just for this
Just the
building.
basketball?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And the next item, Mayor, is the possible approval to advertise ordinance 398, updating the non-uniform pension document changes per the December meeting.
Mouthful. I will make
Yes.
this motion to.
You can say so moved, that'd be fine.
That's the easy way out. I'll make the motion to approve to advertise ordinance 398, updating non-uniform pension document changes for December 2024 meeting.
I'll second that. Motion by Supervisor Newman, second by myself, to advertise ordinance 398, updating the non-uniform pension document changes per the December 2024 meeting. Comments? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next list of ordinances, when we've been doing the update, for the codified ordinances, and we've had a lot of questions on that, and it became apparent that a lot of these were outdated, needed to be updated. And we could either wait till after we finish the codification, in which case we'd be amending our new codified ordinances real quick. Or as I opted, is to bring them up now, get them done before we get to the final draft of the codified ordinances, so these can all be incorporated, these new updates, into the codified ordinances. And a lot of them were updates just as 2024. So I'll go through those one by one with you. The first is possible approval to advertise ordinance 399, adopting the International Fire Code 2024.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Supervisor Newman, to approve the advertisement of ordinance 399, adopting the International Fire Code 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next, Mayor, is the possible approval to advertise ordinance 400, adopting International Property Maintenance Code 2024.
I'll make the motion to approve. Motion by myself, myself, second by Supervisor Jorgensen. Excuse me, to approve ordinance 400, or approve the advertisement of ordinance 400, adopting the International Property Maintenance Code 2024. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
The next, Mayor, is the possible approval to advertise ordinance 401, regulating obscenity and pornography.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 401 for advertising.
Second.
Advertise to approve, 401.
I have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Supervisor Crowley, to approve to advertise ordinance 401, regulating obscenity and pornography. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
The next is the possible approval to advertise ordinance 402, regulating timber harvesting.
I'll make that motion to approve to advertise ordinance 402, regulating timber harvesting.
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Supervisor Jorgensen, excuse me, to approve to advertise ordinance 402, regulating timber harvesting. Comments? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
The next, Mayor, is possible approval to advertise ordinance 403, updating the earned income tax to conform with the Local Enabling Act 32 of Pennsylvania.
Make a motion for 403.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Supervisor Newman, to approve to advertise ordinance 403. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And when are these gonna be available on the web for everyone?
Well, as soon as I get them on there, we'll put together the advertisements for them, and when we put the advertisements for them, we'll put those on the website, so they'll be available.
Next week or so, you think? Okay.
I don't expect them to have them all tomorrow, but we'll do our best by this week. If you saw the weather report for Friday, you each. The next, Mayor, is the possible approval of resolution 2025-04, establishing guidelines for public comment at the public meetings. You have the updated one before you.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve resolution 2025-04, establishing guidelines for public comment at public meetings.
Can we give a little thought to tabling this for a month so people can see what we're approving? I mean, it seems like this is a big picture issue that affects every other issue we talk about it, because it affects how we talk about it, how people comment. I just think it would be appropriate to just have it on the website, just like everything for a month, and just vote on next month.
So,
Well,
hold on. So we had a second, right?
Yes.
So we can open discussion. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, we're in the midst of a vote, so we have a motion and a second.
But now's the time for discussion as well.
I mean, that's my thought on it.
So, couple thoughts on that. Ordinances by statute, and I'm not a lawyer, but Irv, you can correct me on this. Ordinances by statute have to have public input, and that's why we have public hearings for statutes.
They have to be advertised.
Yeah. And then resolutions though, and there's a whole host of resolutions do not require by law public input.
Well, I'm sorry, it's not that it's not public, it was on the agenda, and we had an
Yeah.
opportunity to comment, it's not that it's public input, it just doesn't need to be advertised.
Doesn't need to be advertised. So, the question came up, why now? Why are we doing this now? As one of the speakers said, and I would respond, why not? This has been, the one that's been on the books, has been on the books since mid-80s. And we historically, from time to time, go back and look at all the ordinances, you can see how many we're updating. Recently, we've updated the SALDO, we're doing the PRD, we're doing an updated comprehensive plan. So every year we look at the fee structure, so we're constantly going back and taking a look at where we are with, the ordinances, making sure that they're still current. And if they're not current, we make some tweaks to them. So that's why we're looking at it now, it's just, it hasn't been looked at for a long time. And you really don't want us to take a look at and go abide by these old guidelines. If you go back and look at the old guidelines, nobody would have been able to speak this evening. Because the old resolution says that you have to contact the office a week in advance to speak at a public meeting. There's a lot of things in there that outside of the public comment section, they're really not, the resolution doesn't say that you can comment throughout the meeting. But for those of you who've been here, even though we've tried to discourage it because you go down a lot of rabbit trails, we do have a lot of flexibility with allowing people to speak when they want and when they need to. As far as the 5 minutes go, 5 minutes is a long time. So we had 4 people speak today. 3 of them were 2 minutes or under. 1 was at 4 minutes. No one came close to the 5 minutes. 3 minutes, if you have a good argument, can take you can get a lot said in 3 minutes. At 30 minutes, and if you've been to any of our meetings, we give a lot of latitude. The reason we want to put the 30 minutes in there is in some of these bigger issues, we'll have 10, sometimes 15 people come up and saying making the same point again and again and again. And if you've been here, it just, okay, we've heard that. We've heard it the first time, we've heard it the second time. We get it, we hear you. This would just give a little bit more efficiencies to the meeting if needed. That doesn't mean in 30 minutes, we're gonna cut it off. I think this board historically has shown if there's a good ongoing discussion going on, we're gonna continue. You know, we have never stifled, but the old resolution is really dated. It's not comparable to what other municipalities are doing. I know that there's some comments about Fox Chapel, but there's a lot of other areas that we've looked at. The things that are in here, some changes from what you saw, they've been circulated. And this is why we do not circulate resolutions ahead of time, because they change. And people come and they get all concerned. But what you have in your hand now is not what the resolution is. You will allow people to speak on agenda and non-agenda items. What were the other 2 areas that were concerned?
Big thing was the 3 minutes.
Yeah, but I think Paul's talking about
There was
the
something-
changes over the past day, which I agree were very encouraging. Like, I was a little bit freaked out by
Yeah, there was a couple-
non-agenda items being default.
Yeah, I think we are aware, and that's why.
And that changed, that's good. I mean, overall, this process is very positive. Having clear guidelines and updating it. I just think people don't know what we're voting on. It affects how they speak to us and communicate with us. I think you would just get a lot of goodwill if you just posted it for a month. But you're right, you're not legally obligated to it. And, you know, when it comes net, it's an improvement over what we have on the books.
It's a huge improvement, and there's really, you know, from my perspective, there's nothing out of the ordinary from what's going on
No,
in
yeah,
other areas.
I think Matt said about the 3 minutes. I mean, there's places like Fox Chapel, we're not legally obligated to give you more than 3 minutes. I mean, from Sunshine Law. And that's not a legal issue. And sometimes people come up and they feel like they gotta fill the 5 minutes. They feel like that's what it requires to have a good comment, you know, and I agree on efficiency in some ways. I don't know if it reassures anybody, but in the new draft of this that you probably haven't seen, the actual language says where the total time for the resident common parent has exceeded 30 minutes, the Board of Supervisors reserves the right by majority vote to end the resident comment period on matters not on the agenda. So it's not a hard and fast ceiling of 30 minutes, boom, everybody sit down, we're done. We can extend the conversation, and we're allowed to do that. So I don't really feel that content this is that bad, I just feel that people would like to see it before we vote on it, but the motion's been made and the second's been made, and I'm not
get it, and
wasting breath
the
here.
the other thing I like about it, this is a resolution to establish guidelines. We're not gonna put this on tablets of stone, you know, we've been, for those of you who come to many of the meetings, we're extremely flexible with allowing people to speak, even if it goes beyond the time. The only time we get a little bit more stringent is if they keep on hearing the same thing over and over and over and over. And to be honest, that's why some of these meetings go well into the evening. They can go as long as they want, I'm retired, I got lots of time. But it's just not conducted to a good meeting to hear the same comments over and over. So, and it's a resolution, one second, you know. And we put them in place, and a month, or not a month, but 6 months from now, or a year from now, we don't like them, it's a resolution, we can change it. So, go ahead.
Excuse me.
I just called you a resolution, go ahead, sir.
Some of the thoughts that I had on this, and I appreciate what you just said about how we have done things where it has been very open and casual, in regards to having very strict guidelines. I mean, I would like to see some flexibility on this, as, like, for number one, the sign-in sheet. We all have busy lives, a lot of us come from families, jobs, traffic, what have you, you know, and so like the flexibility to be there if someone comes in, even if they come in at the end of comment, to just last chance, you know, how we typically do it, and give that person still a moment to speak. The sign up thing, I think, is a place where we could see some flexibility, because I noticed that we do have people trickle in after our start time. I did also want to address the, what number was it here? It may have changed since Dan printed this.
The address, or same your address?
Yeah, I saw that the address had changed, yes. I guess, what number was it? The resident speaking, I wanted to know if we could also include language to give flexibility for folks who may not be taxpayers here, but could be directly affected by some of our policies. We do have the Dorseyville Middle School here, which, you know, there are things that we discuss here and that we implement and put into action that could affect residents who may belong to Blawnox, Aspinwall, Sharpsburg, Fox Chapel, or O'Hara. We also have a lot of worship centers, folks who come here for church or synagogue, and businesses. And if something were to be on our agenda that could be in the realm of public safety, I think that those people should be given the opportunity to address the board as well. So I would like to see that
So Sarah,
language.
just a point, to make a point pertinent to what you're saying, it does say comments may be limited to residents, taxpayers of Indiana Township. So it's not a hard and fast rule that people outside are not allowed. So there is some flexibility, it's a may.
Okay.
It's not a shall.
I just wanna make sure that we're not restricting, those folks. And as well as the 30-minute, the time period, which also I understand could be flexible. I do just have some concerns about that, because a lot of times when people come here, especially if it's something that folks are very passionate about, they're meeting their neighbors or other people in the community for the first time, so they are not coming with a unified message. And I know that we ask them to, like, hey, if you're going to be saying the same thing, can you just like send up a representative? But if a lot of people don't know one another, they're not really organizing during that time. And I just want to be wary of ruling any of those things out, because there have been comments that I have found particularly important, that have come after hearing, you know, the same thing 35 times. So I would just feel that, you know, that would be a shame if those persons didn't get an opportunity, or if they weren't here first to sign up on the sign-in sheet. You know, of giving priority to people in time for a sign-up sheet. So I would also think that, because this is a matter that deals directly with the one time that the public can address us all together as a board, that they do view it and have time to, see the updated or, resolution and copy on it as a measure of good faith as well. I think that's a good idea. And otherwise, I'd like to just see some amendments that make it more hospitable to show people that we're very glad that you're here and participating. And I know those supervisors say this all the time, that this is important, and I don't wanna do anything that could take away from that.
Thank you, and just one last comment. It's a living, breathing document. We changed it a little over a year ago, 12 months or so ago. We shifted the order. I'm not sure that worked out as well as we thought, so we're looking to change it now. If this is not working, we can change it again. And in case in point, as far as flexibility, we had a very controversial issue. It was called up, that's all I remember. I forget what the issue was. But one of my, residents in District 1 really wanted to speak at this meeting. But they had a, previous commitment, actually right next door to the fire. I'm gonna get there as soon as, that's over. If I miss the open comment, can I still speak? And when we had public comment, it said, so-and-so contacted me. When he does show up, I move that we allow them to speak even though they missed the window. So we have been, and we're going to continue to be very flexible, but let us know. Now, had he just shown up without letting us know, that might be a different story, but he said, you know what, I wanna speak, I may miss that window, can I speak when I get there, and we allow it, so. I think that this makes this resolution keeps us relevant and current to what is good standard best practices around municipalities, not just neighboring us, but throughout the state of Pennsylvania. So, I hear you, Sarah, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, but if we need to change it and tweak it, let's look at that in the future, and we can tweak it then. So, that's our comments.
I've got another comment, and it's been mentioned several times, the redundancy of people coming to the platform to speak to us. It's so simple to come forward and say, I agree with what's been said before, but I have one additional thing. That takes up a whole lot less time than regurgitating what has been said to us several times. And, you know, we are human beings just like everybody else. And you know, or you should admit, that if somebody says the same thing over and over again, you get kind of tired of hearing it and you don't pay as much attention. So I just think that this format here allows people to come forward and say, I agree with what's been said, and I'd like to add such and such. That cuts down on the number of minutes that they're gonna use. It also increases the number of people that can speak, and we still have an idea of how many people agree with what has been already said. That, you know, you don't have to say that you wanna say the same thing as the person before. What we're trying to do is create, and these are business meetings, we're trying to create an atmosphere where we can listen to what's being said and make decisions without getting into arguments. And that's pretty much one of the problems that we have experienced, is that during public comment section, we're supposed to listen to you. And while we're doing the discussions as we're having now, we speak and you listen. And if you start talking over people, interrupting folks, you know, all comments should be directed to the chair, and that's Robert's Rules of Order, and that's what meetings generally are operated by, and everything is directed here. And if you ask for more time, if you're at 3 minutes or 2 minutes and 58 seconds, if you request the person that is running the meeting for 1 more minute to finish making your point, I doubt seriously that anybody's gonna say, no, your time's up, sit down.
Well, that has happened here before.
Well, I'm saying that we just said it's flexible, we can, you know, accommodate people. It's just that we don't wanna have lengthy back and forth arguments that don't produce any results. So, any more comments from anybody on the board? We have a motion by Supervisor Crowley, a second by Supervisor Jorgensen to approve Resolution 2025-4, establishing guidelines for public comment at public meetings. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-2.
I'll make sure a copy of that's posted on our website as well.
Next.
The next, Mayor, is the possible approval to advertise the 2025 Shot and Chip project. That's, what roads is that for, Dan?
Isley,
Isley.
Lower Cedar.
Okay.
Lower Cedar.
Isley.
Make a motion to approve the
Cool,
advertised
thanks.
2025 shot and chip project.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor, excuse me, Newman, second by Supervisor Herrick to approve to advertise the 2025 shot and chip project. Comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And the last, Mayor, is the possible approval to advertise the 2025 guide rail project.
I'll make the motion to approve to advertise the 2025 guide rail project.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Herrick, second by Supervisor Crowley to approve to advertise the 2025 guardrail project. Any comments?
Just one comment, a question, Dan, all these ordinances and these things that were approved and advertised, are they gonna be on the March, April agenda?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, for possible consideration for adoption.
so they'll be advertised prior to
Yes,
the next meeting, okay, thank you.
yes. They should be able to meet the timing for all.
Oh, they don't, they're not, they don't have to have a hearing prior?
At least keep your public notice.
Thank you.
Okay. Further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I will second that motion.
Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Jorgensen, second by Supervisor Newman to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Don, I didn't know those were your boys who performed at multiple night last year and this year. First of all, they're amazing, but also to see their progress in 1 year. It was so cool. Like, kids who see a song and you get to see that.
Yeah, we're gonna go.
Indiana Township. The chairman should come.